so picture this, right? It's Christmas, but not exactly, the picture-perfect holiday scene.
Yeah.
More like a gritty, snow-covered city you might see in like a dark graphic novel. And that's where we find ourselves in this deep dive. We're looking at one specific Marvel comic, Marvel Holiday Special 1.
Okay.
And in particular, a story called Midknight Drear. So if you're expecting, a heartwarming holiday cheer, you might want to adjust your expectations a bit. This one drops the Punisher right smack in the middle of this story about desperation and violence and honestly some pretty wild twists.
Definitely not your typical Christmas story, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
right. Not exactly a Hallmark movie. Okay, so the story opens on this group of people huddled under a bridge trying to stay warm on this freezing Christmas. You immediately get this sense of despair, especially with this one father and daughter who are just trying to make it through the night. So when you first see this, what stands out to you about this setting?
Well, I think what's really interesting is how the comic sets up this really stark contrast right from the beginning. You've got Christmas, which is, traditionally a time of hope and generosity. But then it immediately hits you with this harsh reality of poverty and crime.
Yeah.
And visually, it's really powerful. The artist, Klaus Janson, he uses these stark images, and the shadows are so heavy. They really emphasize how cold and desperate everything feels.
Yeah, no, that's true. Very bleak. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the story introduces another layer of tension with this group of criminals led by Trinidad. They're waiting to meet with this local crime boss named Connell, and it's pretty clear they're not there for a friendly chat.
Yeah, you can tell just from the way they're talking, there's a lot of tension. They're definitely planning something, maybe trying to take over. And the way they talk about Connell, it just hints that things are about to get violent.
Right. And this is where the Punisher makes his grand entrance. Now, for anyone who might not be totally familiar with him, the Punisher, or Frank Castle, he's not your typical superhero.
No, definitely not.
He doesn't wear a flashy costume, and he definitely doesn't have any superpowers. He operates completely outside the law, driven by a really tragic past and this unwavering commitment to punishing criminals, and often in, pretty brutal ways.
He's a very complex character. He's fueled by this intense personal tragedy, the murder of his whole family.
Right.
And that's basically warped his entire sense of justice. He sees himself as judge, jury, and executioner all in one. He delivers punishment wherever he thinks it's deserved.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he's about to do in this story. It throws us right into this chaotic fight scene but before we can dive into that, things take another crazy turn when Trinidad's whole plan backfires. Literally, the suitcase he's carrying explodes.
And that explosion, that's where we get one of the most visually stunning moments in the entire comic. Imagine this. Money scattering from the sky like snowflakes, falling down on all those people huddled under the bridge.
Whoa. Okay, we got to talk about that.
It's almost surreal, right? This brutal act of violence leads to this dreamlike image of money raining down on the people who need it most.
Yeah.
Such a crazy contrast.
Yeah, totally. It's like a twisted Christmas miracle. You've got these people who were just moments ago struggling to survive, and now they're scrambling to grab as much cash as they can. And the Punisher, he just watches it all happen.
Right.
And what's interesting? The story actually gives us a little peek into his thoughts. He thinks to himself, why not? It's only money.
Oh, yeah. And there's another line that really stood out to me. He thinks, to those people, it means a chance something Connell would never give them.
Yeah.
It's he understands maybe that there's a kind of poetic justice in this whole situation.
Interesting.
Because this money was meant for a criminal, but now it's ending up in the hands of people who've been, ignored and exploited by the system. Is it the Christmas spirit somehow working on him? Or is it something deeper? Like a recognition of all the injustices that have led these people to this point.
Yeah. I mean, we know he's motivated by the loss of his own family.
Right.
So maybe he sees a little bit of that pain reflected in this father and daughter under the bridge.
And think about the setting. It's Christmas. Even when things are really bad, there's still this feeling of hope, a belief in miracles. Maybe, just maybe, the Punisher lets himself feel that too, just for a moment.
He's still a vigilante, of course, still operating outside the law.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And then, just like that, the Punisher disappears back into the snowy night, leaving behind this trail of, chaos and scattered cash and a million unanswered questions.
Yeah, that's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
He's gone. But what he did, both the violence and the mercy, it's going to have a lasting impact. on the story and on the reader.
That's what makes this so much more than just a superhero comic, right? It's using those same ideas, but to say something bigger. You've got this idea of Christmas, like peace on earth and all that, but then you have the reality these people are stuck in.
Right, exactly. Like, if you're living in poverty, worried about where your next meal is coming from, those Christmas ideals, they don't really mean much.
Yeah.
The father and daughter under the bridge, they're not exactly dreaming of presents. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah, and then all that money just falling out of the sky, almost like a messed up Christmas miracle.
It is. Is it really a miracle if it came from violence? Does it matter where it came from if it's helping people who need it? The story doesn't tell you what to think, and that's what I like about it.
Makes you think about violence, too, how it just keeps going. The Punisher wants revenge, but he usually just causes more destruction. But here, that same violence, it accidentally helps those people. It's kind of weird when you think about it.
So we went to some pretty dark places, but it really got me thinking. Even the bleakest stories, there's always more to them than you think. There are moments that surprise you, that make you think about justice and what it means to be good.
And maybe, just maybe, it reminds us that there's always hope. Even in the darkest corners. Even in the shadow of the Punisher.